this is another session from Pressbooks Picks series, where we talk about different features and different tools in Pressbooks. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Mm.
All right, so by the end of this session, we will have covered how to duplicate books and chapters in Pressbooks. And also we will talk about managing content in Pressbooks, managing cloned content in Pressbooks. So what is cloning? Cloning is basically duplicating an entire book, uh, a book which is hosted somewhere else, maybe in Pressbooks repository or directory or somewhere else, anywhere. You've found a book that you'd like to bring it over to your Pressbooks instance and start working on it, adapt it because the license allows it. So yeah, also sometimes you have found a chapter that you would like to bring over and import it into your own content, and then again, not start from scratch, but adapt it because the license allows it. So it saves you time, and it also ensures consistency across multiple versions of a book, and also allows easy updates and modifications for different audiences. So it's a powerful tool in Pressbooks. You can clone content from an HTML file, you can clone content from a web book and a website, etc., etc. So as full books, what can be cloned? Full books can be cloned, copies of entire books, basically, including structure and metadata, and also chapters, which could be imported into an already created book. And what is not cloned? User permissions, basically. So the licenses do not carry over. So maybe you'd like to use a different license because that's your choice. So another thing which it may not be cloned perfectly would be external links, because we will talk about this later, but we need to always review the external links to make sure they're working. So to clone a book, basically the first step is to locate it. So, and there are so many repositories and directories that we could find a book that we would like to clone. One of them is OER Texas or Pressbooks directory or Open Textbook Library. So after finding your book, all you need is the URL to the book, and also make sure the book you're trying to clone allows cloning, basically. The license supports it. And then we would navigate to the Pressbooks dashboard, either clone a book button on the top or adapt a book. They both do the same thing, basically. And the next step would be to enter the source book URL and also the new book URL. So which would basically be choosing a URL name for the new book. And then pressing the clone book button, which gives you a progress bar, which shows you the content is being cloned part by part and chapter by chapter. And finally, at the end, you would see the success button when that process completes. All right, so this is cloning a book. Usually cloning a book is something that a network manager will do. So if you would like to clone a book, you can reach out to me or your point person, and they would clone the book for you, and then you're added to the book, and you can make changes however you wish. However, cloning a chapter is something that a, a book author could do. So once the book is created and the person has a license, they can just go into the book dashboard and click import content, as can be seen here, and then choose the import format from a variety of formats, including EPUB, Microsoft Word, OpenOffice, Pressbooks, or any XML file, or even a web page or a Pressbooks webbook, basically. And then that would uh, allow you to import it into your chapter, and you can import the selection and then organize it into your book, place it in the correct place within the book's structure. That's it. These two ways of cloning content and importing chapters or parts. So about managing cloned content, we just need to make sure uh, uh, we rename the cloned books or chapters for clarity. Uh, so because the book would be cloned with the same name as the original, so it's always good practice to rename it based on our needs, and also adjust metadata and licensing details based on your choice, and also make sure formatting, images, and links remain intact. And finally, check the external links to make sure they're not broken, uh, they're not restricted, and make sure they're all working. Canvas does it automatically. I mean, there is an option, as you may know, to do it through Canvas, but Pressbooks doesn't have this option to validate links, basically. So it requires a page by page review of the content on the part of the author. And here's a video where this whole process could be shown very succinctly. All right, so for best practice, keep track of versions, maintain documentations of cloned books and chapters to make sure you attribute properly. Also, check licensing, ensure the original content is openly licensed and allows cloning, basically. And again, review formatting and links and give proper attribution. Thank you very much. Now I'll exit out of this slide deck and we'll go to Pressbooks where we can actually import some content together. All right, so the first step to cloning is basically locate your content. And for that, we could navigate to a repository of open educational resources. For instance, we could navigate to Pressbooks directory directly from the ODP's webpage. And when you go to the directory, then you can select the content you're looking for. You can search and filter your results however you wish. For the purpose of this demo, I would just pick a book uh, uh, for an example. So I could go, for instance, to the language learning category. And this is actually the same book that I used for the purpose of this demo. And yeah, so what I need to clone is just the URL. I click and copy it, then take it back to my dashboard, and I could adapt it or clone it, basically. So these two buttons do the same thing. So when I click clone book, it asks me for the source book URL. I already have it, so I paste it, and then I should provide a new book URL. So the first part of the domain is already there. I just need to, yes, add my own name for this book. Let's call it ESOL workbook for an example. and then click Clone Book. So as you can see, it says your book URL can only contain lowercase letters, A to Z, and numbers. So this is because there is a
Ah,
space here.
okay, good. I'm glad
Yeah.
it catches that.
Yes, yeah, if you enter a number or a hyphen, so it always catches that. So I'm gonna just remove the space and then click clone content. And as you can see, it's just looking up the
Mhm.
source book. It takes some time for it to be cloned. All right, so while we're waiting for this, we can also try to import a chapter, basically. So, and for that, I already have a book already loaded. So this is the Pressbooks test book, which I use for test purposes. And as you can see on my dashboard, I have the import content button,
Mhm.
which could be used to import content, including chapters and parts. So, and import type, I have various ways of importing content. So I could just, let's say, use the same Pressbooks. I could, as if there is a file, I can upload it directly. If there is a URL, I could just enter it as a URL. So I can go back here and just, again, use this book as an example and see what happens. Begin import. Your file does not appear to be a valid. Oh, yes, that's true. WXR.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm gonna go back up here. It's a web page or a Pressbooks web book, which is a URL, and then paste it and begin import. It's working on it. And I could go back and see what happened with my other book. So it's still in progress, as you can see. So cloning parts and chapters, 9 out of 34. And here you could also search for Pressbooks, the directory, I mean books as well, directly from inside your dashboard. You don't have to navigate to Pressbooks directory first and then find your book. So this also allows you to search the directory. All right. So what happens with importing a chapter, it doesn't clone it. I mean, right now, I'm cloning here. It takes
mhm,
time. But with importing, it just lists all the parts in your Pressbooks, and then you could pick what you want to be imported into your book. So for instance, let's say I'd like to import the chapter on weather. And as you can see, it also tells me this is a chapter. So it's not a front matter, it's not a part, it's not the back matter, it's not a glossary. So uh, I know the designation. So this is a chapter on weather, and I would like to import it into my book and then start working on it. So I just need to select it and then click import selection, basically. And it looks it up and imports it directly into my book. And because it's only one chapter, the process should be uh, completed very quickly. All right, perfect. So the content was imported and it's here, and I could just make changes. Maybe I'd like to deactivate it for now so that I can make my changes.
mhm.
And I could just click whether I'm in the chapter and go in, see what the chapter is about, and then make changes the way I'd like to uh, make changes in this specific content. So yeah, this is importing a chapter and then organizing it, making changes in it however you wish. And then I could go ahead and save it if I'm confident with the content or if I'm sure it's what I want. So going back to uh, so the cloning book process is still taking some time, but
Mhm.
that's yes, it takes it needs to take its own course.